Okay, and we're live. This is Marcel Doumerc with Anvil Wealth. And today's guest, we have Greg Vernovage, a dear friend of mine who I've known about 25 odd years. I was a coach at Long Beach State, assistant coach at Long Beach State with the men's volleyball team with Alan Knipe. And when I left in 2001, Greg took over my position until I think was it 2004 or what year was it, Greg?
Yeah, I stopped right after '04. Yep.
Okay. And so anyways, we lost a little bit of touch because Greg got into mountain climbing and did expeditions, and he'll share a little bit about that later in the podcast. But we have some commonality in real estate investing, and he's had some experience with remodels and flipping of some houses. And so I wanted to talk to Greg and introduce him and get some of his perspective on some things that I think we can all learn to make some money like he did, and he's willing to share. So welcome, Greg. Good to see you again.
Hey, good to see you, Marcel. And, you just said you were an assistant to Alan Knipe. I was an assistant to Alan Knipe. He just got his 400th career win. We're not that old, but congratulations, Alan. And let's talk about a guy who's been successful in his career. Guy's just awesome.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, I saw that. That was on Friday night, and they won last night too. So now he's 401. But we'll get him on the podcast later after the season's over when he's not so busy. But yeah, it was good times for both of us back then. And Alan continued success to Alan Knipe and the Long Beach State. They're actually ranked number 1 in the nation, the volleyball team. So
yes, they are.
Cool. Let's get right into it. So for today, let's see. The first thing let's ask is how did you get it? And these are things that I don't know all the details. So I thought I'd ask you on the podcast is how did you get into volleyball originally and then into mountain climbing? Like, how was your journey back when you were, I guess, a teenager or maybe just starting college?
Yeah. I was in high school, Marcel, and I was born and raised in the Northeast and a basketball player. Uh-huh. And one year I decided instead of going to basketball camp, I'm going to go to a volleyball camp. And so I signed up and went to a volleyball camp between my junior and senior year at Penn State. Okay. And the late great Tom Peterson and his assistant at the time, Mark Pavlik, who's also a great human being. After camp, they said, hey, so you play basketball. Well, there's this many people in the United States who are going to go and play basketball in Division I. And they said, you should consider playing volleyball. And I said, okay, thanks. I didn't really think much of it, but I met another guy, another player at the camp, and he said, do you want to play club volleyball? I had never heard of the word club volleyball before.
Right.
And he said, oh, it's so much fun. You get to travel around the United States and play other teams from X, Y, and Z. And it's just a lot of fun. And I said, hey, travel around, play volleyball, count me in. What do I got to do? Yeah. And so the hardest part of that was I lived in Northeast Pennsylvania, and the team was in Silver Springs, Maryland. I'll never forget.
Okay.
I was a 17-year-old kid. My dad took me to the Greyhound station, put me on a bus for 6 hours down to Silver Springs, Maryland.
No way.
Yeah, got into Washington, D.C., got picked up, and the rest, quote unquote, is kind of history. I played. We were okay. We went to the junior nationals, and some schools watched me play. And one of the coaches that came to see one of the matches I was playing in was a coach by the name of Andy Reid.
Uh-huh.
And Andy at that time was coaching at Pepperdine University.
Okay.
They sent me a letter and said, hey, we'd be interested in having you attend school. And I went to Pepperdine University, and onward and upward. I feel great about going to that school. I have a lot of feelings about the coaching staff. I'm still friends with Andy Reid after all these years. And so that's how I got into volleyball. And it just
how'd you get into the mountain climbing then? What was was there a connection, or was it random? Connected to volleyball?
There is a weird connection with volleyball, Marcel. I always liked the outdoors. I always liked camping. Uh, When I stopped playing volleyball and transitioned into coaching volleyball, I was coaching a couple of guys on the beach, and I was coaching at a small junior college in the Valley, Woodland Hills at Pierce Community College.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I always said, so after, between playing, I wanted to stay in shape, and a buddy of mine got me into rock climbing.
Okay.
Another buddy got me into mountain climbing. So I had started doing it way back when. And then I always told myself I should never ask my players to do something I'm not capable of doing.
Okay.
And so I had some really great teams at Pierce Community College, Long Beach State, and I was coaching a couple of guys on the beach that were really good at what they did, and ended up going to the Olympics, winning. And
well, that's good.
he said, I got all these guys who are really great athletes, and I got to demand certain things from them in the gym to get success. And my transition to that was, well, if I can do this in the mountains, and I can ask and demand this in the gym. And we'll probably get into some of those things later, but I did both of them together. And then I was coaching at Long Beach. I was still climbing mountains and coaching some other teams, and I had to stay in shape and demand things from myself.
Right.
And so that's where the connection came. And then I left Long Beach State, and I left Long Beach State while I still loved the game. I loved the game. I loved my players. I have so much respect for the coaching staff that is still at Long Beach State. We just got done talking about Alan Knipe, and great coach, great person, great friend. If you picked up the phone, the guy would find a way to help you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so still loved it, but there were other things in life I felt like I needed to do. So I stopped coaching and, did some searching and found myself in the mountains again, where I found my next employer. And he knew about volleyball and said, well, if you can coach and you like the mountains, let's see if you're any good at guiding people. At which point I was okay at coaching. I did love the mountains, and I knew enough about guiding, and I was learning more and more and more. Next thing you know, I'm a mountain guide. And
now, were you guiding? Were you in the Sierras in California at that point, or what was your progression there?
Yeah, I started guiding in the Eastern Sierra, out of a place called Lone Pine, and out of
I know where that is.
Isn't it? It's just that's a slice of heaven over there. Lone Pine is beautiful, and then you got Mount Whitney, and I climbed Mount Whitney many times. Beautiful mountain, and just loved it. And my last job, I met the owner of the company, and he said, well, we have some work up in the Pacific Northwest on this mountain called Mount Rainier. We'd like you to come up and work there also. By the time I got to Mount Rainier, I had climbed Mount Whitney a whole bunch, Lone Pine, and all of those mountains. I'd been to Mexico, South America, and the big one is Denali. I'd been to Denali and climbed that to the summit. And by the time I got to Rainier, they said, okay, he knows how to guide and he's been to altitude. Let's test him more and more. And for the last 20 plus years, I tested myself in the mountains, and it was great. And I loved I loved every situation I was in the mountains for the most part.
Awesome. And we'll come back to getting a little more details on your mountain climbing, because I know you have some good stories to share with me. But a lot of our viewers, since we're about financial wellness and real estate and how to invest, I wanted to ask you a little bit about your real estate journey. How did that begin?
How did my real estate? I lived, that's a great question. I lived in a camper in the back of my truck for about 11 years when I was still figuring life out.
That's a great place to start, the back of a truck, right?
If we're going to talk about real estate, living in a camper in the back of a pickup truck is probably, I don't know.
Not a bad mortgage, I bet.
It was a great mortgage. You know, you had a car payment and you slept wherever you found a place to sleep.
Wow,
So
awesome.
my real estate ventures started by living in the back of a pickup truck, and it worked for me because I was guiding. And so I was sleeping in a tent on the side of a mountain most of the time. So by the time I got home, everybody, if you're looking, I have quotes around there. By the time I got home, going into a camper, it was a nice slide-in camper.
Right.
But going into a camper in the back of a pickup truck, that was awesome. It was heaven. You had a toilet, you had a stove, and you had a bed. What more do you need? So after working in the mountains for about 11 years and living in a camper, I had saved up some money and said, well, okay, I guess I have enough money maybe to buy a house. And so I'm up in the Pacific Northwest, and I went looking, okay, where do all the million questions that the first time home buyer must have, I had them.
Right.
They're scary and they're daunting, all of these questions. And I knew just enough about real estate to make myself dangerous. So I found the house. It was within reason that I could put a down payment on. And I remember this distinctly. I put a down payment on, and then I could comfortably make the mortgage payments.
Right.
I didn't want to end up going back to living paycheck to paycheck.
Oh, yeah. No way.
You know, I wanted some cushion. I wanted to continue building, excuse me, what little wealth I did have. And I call it wealth. This is like, anywhere from 2,000 to 15,000 at any given time. That was the wealth. That was the cushion I wanted for the oh shit moment, so to speak, that can happen that I read about with home ownership. Got into this first house, loved it, said, okay, this is it. I've got a house now. I'm done. And beautiful little house in the mountains. And I decided, okay, I learned electric and plumbing from my dad. And then I had a side gig that I learned how to tile from some friends.
Oh, okay. Well, that helps. Yeah.
So I have these rudimentary trades already in my toolbox that, okay, maybe I can. So I looked at a bathroom and I said, I'm going to try to remodel this little bathroom. Okay. So I demoed it and threw all the stuff outside. And then I went down to Home Depot and found tiles that were on sale, so on and so forth. I ended up remodeling all 2 bathrooms and the kitchen in the house, and was like, oh, I'm so psyched now. My friend who's a real estate agent came over and he said, you've done a great job at this. And I said, oh, thank you so much. I said, what do you think I could get for it if it went on the market? And he said, you could get this for this house. Marcel, my eyes popped out of my head. I just got a serious girlfriend who became my wife later. She was going to move in. I paid half the price of what he told me I could get for the house. My eyes popped out. My future wife lived 2 hours or worked 2 hours away. And I said, let's put it on the market and see if we can move closer to where my wife works. And I suddenly became, by no practice of my own, a house flipper.
That is awesome. So you had no idea. You had no goal to be a house flipper. It literally fell in your lap and you just did the work and something good came about it.
Marcel, there was no plan whatsoever.
Wow.
It was as lucky gets. I ended up being okay at those trades, the rudimentary trades that I was doing. Made money on that house, was able to put the money from that house into the next house, at
Right.
which point I'm feeling pretty good about myself.
Right.
And yet I'm saying, okay, this next house is it. We're never going to move again. It's now on a beautiful little island in the Pacific Northwest.
Right.
And, we're happy and we have a dog, and okay, our bathroom needs to be remodeled. Well, I did it twice, so
Yeah.
why not try it again?
Uh-huh.
And did it again there, and then did it to the kitchen, and then did it to the living room.
Yeah.
At which point, as life would have it, and I don't know if everybody plans on this. I mean, home flippers, by definition, plan on doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do it. I didn't plan on doing this. Again, I said, my wife got a new job. It's now time to move again. What can we get for this house?
And they doubled it again, huh?
we nearly doubled it again.
Wow. Awesome.
And then there was one more house that we did it to, and the market also helped us in that house, but we did it. And so what do they call it? I'm a lucky flipper, and it has worked out for me. And here we are now, and we have both promised ourselves that we're going to stay here for now, but there
for a while.
but there are now tools out there that I have that I'm happy to use, and I really enjoy.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing that. Let's see here. I had another question. You actually answered it with that one. Is how did you do your first house flip? And you just told us. Let me ask you this. Let's tie in your sports background with real estate and business. How did your success in sports translate to real estate and business?
I'm extremely focused. When I set my eyes on a goal, I want to succeed at it. And that's what it was with the houses. That is what it was with sports in the mountains. Right. And if I can focus on something, and whether it was the season at Long Beach, or it was doing the remodel on the house, or being on the mountain, getting to the summit and back safely, nothing else existed outside of what I wanted to accomplish. If we're talking about the 2000 Olympic Games, we had a goal in mind, and that was to win the gold medal. When we're at Long Beach State, we have a goal in mind, and anything short of winning the championship is, hey, it can happen because it's sports. When you're in the mountains, you don't summit every time, but your goal is to summit and to get up and down safely. In real estate, I wanted the right situation, and when I got into that situation, I focused in on not only how I can keep the situation good, but make it better and succeed. And even in this last house, how can we're not planning on leaving, but how can we make it better? And when we talk about other real estate ventures, if I'm working with other people, how can we create and make the best possible product for that company or individual? So for me, the word is focus.
That's awesome. And determination, because you're super focused, but you're determined to finish it too. You're not the guy that does 80% of the work, or just coaches 80% of the time, or just climbs 80% of the mountain. You've got to get the whole 100%.
The whole 100%. And not every one of those projects, whether it's sports, mountains, or real estate, you go in with a perfect plan, in my opinion, and be prepared to have curveballs thrown at you. And you're going to have to adjust. And don't panic. Hit the pause button and find the solution. It's out there.
Yeah.
If I don't know the solution, I have friends who know the solution.
That's
and
awesome.
and it's finding the solution. I love it. Determination, another great word.
That's awesome. Okay, let's see here. Okay, I have to ask you, and because I've always been incredibly impressed with your climbing background. And for those that don't know, that Greg did climb Mount Everest to the top, and not only that, he was actually a guide on Mount Everest. So if you're not impressed by someone that climbs Mount Everest, you better be impressed with someone that's a guide on Mount Everest. And I am very impressed. So I wanted to ask you, tell us a scary story on one of your tours that you went up there.
On Mount Everest, there were many scary stories.
I imagine.
2014 and 2015 are the very most obvious and most scary. In 2014, there was a problem in the Khumbu icefall, and we lost Sherpa. The mountain lost Sherpa in that, and we did our very best to rescue as many as we could, and unfortunately, we lost some. In 2015, quite possibly the most scary situation in the mountains I had ever been involved in. And it didn't have anything to do with mountain climbing. In 2015, there was an earthquake in Nepal, and that earthquake rattled everybody, and it rattled Everest Base Camp and the mountain. And we had there were climbers at Camp 1 and Camp 2, and a lot of climbers at Base Camp. And the earthquake, Base Camp is supposed to be our safe area. And that earthquake hit Base Camp, and a huge block of ice came off an adjoining mountain and hit the ground and created a blast that was so incredibly scary for everyone there. Tragic situation. And that was probably the most scared I was ever in my life in the mountains. And then it was time to react to what had happened. And our camp was the largest camp at Base Camp at that time. And, you know, to finish up 2015 on Mount Everest with the earthquake, I will say I have never in my entire life been around a group of people that worked in a common goal to save as many people as humanly possible. It makes you realize the quality of human beings and how hard they are willing to work to save other people. And so that was an unbelievable situation. And I hold on to all the greatness that works so hard at every level of the mountains to help people. It was humankind at its finest.
Dang.
A tragic situation, but that's what I remember.
Well, and that leads me to the next follow-up question on that is give us a heartwarming story. Maybe something specific, as opposed to, obviously everyone did their best, but is there anything specific that you can share with us that we would never see unless we climbed up there?
Heartwarming situation. 2015, obviously, all those people working together. Just one heartwarming situation. I got it. In 2010, there was a father and son climbing Mount Everest, and they'd done all the other of the 7 summits. The 7 summits are the tallest mountain on each continent. And this father and son were climbing Mount Everest together. And I was sitting with the son at Base Camp one day, and we were watching his dad do some stuff and interact with people across Base Camp. And I said to him, Ryan, you are here with your dad. I would give anything to climb a mountain with my dad. I can't do it. He's passed away. I said, you're here with your dad. not only are you here with your dad, but Ryan, your dad is a stud.
Mm-hmm.
He's strong. He's capable. He's great to be around. I said, how do you handle that? I said, are you ever jealous? Like, what's going on? I mean, your dad, Ryan, is just awesome.
Yeah.
And he said to me, he said, Greg, I'm just proud to be with my dad. And I feel so lucky to be in the mountains with him.
Right.
So Greg, I just love it. He's my dad, and that's my dad. They went on to summit Mount Everest together. They did all of the 7 summits together.
Wow.
And that's just one of so many stories. But those 2 people, whenever you have the opportunity to be in the presence of greatness, you take it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Those 2 people were great, are great, continue to be great. And so there's a heartwarming story. I mean, I have so many, but that's just, yeah, I mean,
that is pretty special.
Yeah.
Super special. Okay. Now here's the big question that I think is most helpful to people. And I like to ask this from each of the guests is, what is your why? In other words, when you do anything, like there's that moment where it's 10 o'clock at night on a Sunday night, you could go to bed or go watch a movie, but then you go and do something. You go read an article on climbing or on volleyball, or you do some scouting, you do some work when you do not need to. What is your why that motivates you to do that without me or a coach or your wife or someone saying, hey, Greg, you got to go do this or do that? What is the thing that gets you to do it where you don't feel like you're procrastinating? You just want to do it. What is your why?
What a fantastic question. And I just thought about this probably about a year ago. And I asked myself that same question. Why? Why sports and volleyball? Why then the mountains? And why then, when I slowed down climbing, did I still do it? And why am I doing what I'm doing now? And the easy one would be, I like to succeed and I like to win. Mm-hmm. That's the easy way, but that wasn't. I do like to win. Everybody does. I'm red-blooded and American.
Right.
We love to succeed. We love to win, but I found myself doing more and more and more. And now I'm doing something totally different, and I still enjoy it. The why to me is I like to help, and I like to see people succeed. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's it. If I see somebody and I get the feeling that they need or want to succeed in doing, whether it's I want to win a gold medal, right? I want to win a national championship in college. Mm-hmm. I want to climb this mountain. Right. I want to remodel this factory and change it completely. I want to turn the 3rd floor of an old hospital into condos, and I have this crazy idea that I think might work. Mm-hmm. The winning the gold medal, the winning the national championship, the standing on the mountaintop, the looking at a finished product with the people who are in charge of it brings me joy, brings me satisfaction. And the why now in life is my family, because we don't, we have a wonderful life, and my why now is to give my daughter everything I can possibly give her to allow her to have a great life. My wife, myself, but I'm still using all the tools that I've used my whole life. Mm-hmm. To help them, and I'm not afraid of hard work and challenge. And I always like a buddy of mine says I like to play in traffic that is coming at me. And I just need to find the next highway to play in traffic of. And I think that's a little bit morbid, but it's the challenge. It's the excitement. I have not really picked the easy way to do things. It's okay. We got to win a gold medal. Okay, let's do that. A national championship in Division I. Okay, let's do that. let's climb a mountain, not just any mountain. Let's climb
the biggest one.
climb the tallest one in the world and help people. Well, okay, let's do that. And so it's I love it. And my why is I thrive off of seeing people succeed, and I share in that with them.
That's awesome. That's very fulfilling, as I agree with that. Also, for the viewers, I haven't mentioned this before, but my wife and I own a commercial building here in Alabama. And on the third floor, it's an old hospital, actually. It was a hospital in the city we live in. And the entire top floor, it's over 5,000 square feet of little, hospital rooms, has been abandoned for about 60 years, has not been touched. And it's gutted and everything. Greg is a construction project manager, and he is looking like he's going to be helping us do the remodel of that. We're going to build some loft-style condos down the road. And so that's kind of one of the reasons we're together with some things, but I wanted some other stories beyond that today. But so Greg, I have one last question for you. Now understanding your background, your sports history, your success in climbing, success in real estate and flipping, and mainly your why is, the question is this: what can you share with people? Because like you said, you just figured out your why really about a year ago. And I did recently too, and I'm 55 years old. So what can you share with the viewers to encourage them to chase their why, or to find their why and chase their dreams? What would you say to them?
Find their way, chase their dreams.
Think of younger people. Think of people in their 20s and 30s that are sitting there going, wow, this is pretty cool stuff. But, they're trying to figure out their why, what motivates them, and what are their dreams. And let's encourage them to go after their dreams, not wait till they're our age to do it,
Avoid talking yourself out of it. Avoid talking yourself out of it. For those of you watching or listening, you have a dream, and who knows until you jump into it, find out what that dream is. It's easy to talk yourself out of doing something. Do the research and start putting together all the reasons how, why, what you can succeed. Whether it was sports or the mountains, I always wanted to know what you were good at. Okay, so find your dream and find what you're good at within that dream.
That's awesome.
And then before you know it, you have your dream, and then you have what you're good at. And then you can make a list of stuff that you need to get better at. And before you know it, the stuff that you need to get better at gets smaller and smaller. But if we start in the gym and go, hey, I know I need to get better at setting, or I know I need to get better at this, or in the mountains, oh, Greg, I'm not that great at this, and I'm not that great at that. And in real estate, oh, daunting. Real estate, Marcel, oh my goodness, how daunting is that? And we're in it's daunting. We're in our 50s, and we're still apprehensive about certain things.
Right.
But let's start with, okay, let's check the boxes of what we know.
Right.
Marcel knows real estate. He wouldn't have gotten into the hospital if it wasn't a good situation.
Right.
Greg knows about this. Okay, so Greg and Marcel are going to put our check boxes together, and we're going to write the numbers. And then we're going to say, here's what we know and here's what we're good at. Before you know it, that list of what we're good at is this long, and the list of stuff we don't know is this long.
Yeah, excellent.
And then we're going to find those answers to the stuff we're not good at and try to make ourselves better.
Yeah. Well, I like encouraging people, because there's too many people that try to discourage you from doing things. And I try to get people on the podcast that are positive. And so I love your positivity. You have that same positive energy as I do, and that means something. And I hope the viewers take that and surround themselves with those kind of people, not the negative Nancy's,
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, great podcast, Greg. Thank you for being a guest. And hopefully the viewers got something out of this. They got some stories from Mount Everest and some volleyball stuff and the Olympics and some real estate and some flipping and, just good conversation. And thanks again.
Thank you. Great to see you.
All right. Take care.